Well, as you can see, Kathy, the Mall is still busy with tourists and well-wishers. But earlier on today, you could hardly move here. There were tens of thousands of people in a sea of red, white and blue to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee. But it's a very different Jubilee to the previous 3 Jubilees. At 96, with mobility problems, the Queen limited her appearance to just the balcony at Buckingham Palace. And this Jubilee was different as well because of who wasn't there beside her. Her son, Prince Andrew, and her grandson, Prince Harry, no longer deemed to be working royals, were not there. But that didn't take away from the joy of this and the events today. It was the calm before the storm, a near-empty Mall early this morning. But the hardcore had pitched tents and spent the night here.
It's like quite special, and this is like one in a lifetime to see her. So we thought that it would be good to camp here.
Some had flown thousands of miles to get a glimpse of royalty, and not just the Queen.
We all had our teenage crushes on William, right? I mean,
yes, we did. Even in America, we had our teenage crushes on William.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I married him when I was 14 in my head. So I'm here to see my husband, really.
And yes, that is Prince William under the busby. In front of him, his father, the Prince of Wales, and behind him, Princess Anne. Proceedings were briefly interrupted when animal rights protesters ran onto the Mall. One man was carried off by police, another wearing a gold crown was also arrested. Prince Louis, 5th in line to the throne, practiced his royal wave, too enthusiastically as far as his sister Charlotte was concerned. Then Louis watched from above as his father and grandfather took the salute at Trooping the Colour, filling in for the Queen. The Duchess of Cambridge also looked on. Behind her and out of sight of the TV cameras, Prince Harry and Meghan. It's thought to be the first time the 2 women have met in person since 2020. Everyone's now rushing down to Buckingham Palace to see if they can get a good vantage point, to look at that world-famous balcony. What's different this time round is not who got an invite to appear on that balcony, but who did not. So-called working royals and their children will be there, but Prince Andrew and Prince Harry and Meghan will not. Finally, the person everyone had come to see. The longest-serving monarch, leaning on her walking stick, surrounded by 17 members of the royal family.
I think she's one of the most wonderful women that's ever walked the earth and will ever walk again. I think she's a fantastic, amazing woman. She's never put a foot wrong, and she's been there all my life. And I just think that constant is really important to quite a lot of people, especially through hard times.
Just very, very proud to be British and celebrate a special occasion with the Queen that none of us will ever see happen again in our lifetimes. And such an amazing, amazing lady. So proud.
It was the finale, an impressive flypast that left the Queen smiling. But it was Prince Louis who stole the show, pulling a funny face before covering his ears with his hands. He's not the first child to photobomb a royal moment, as newlyweds Kate and William found back in 2011, when one of their bridesmaids looked distinctly unimpressed. The once-in-a-lifetime Platinum Jubilee celebrations will continue throughout the bank holiday weekend. Tonight, 1,500 beacons will be lit across the UK and in the capital cities of 54 Commonwealth countries. And some news for you this evening. It seems that the Duke of York will miss the one official event he was due to appear at, and that was the Thanksgiving service tomorrow at St Paul's Cathedral. This afternoon, after all the events here, Buckingham Palace announced that the Prince had tested positive for COVID.
Jane, thanks very much. Well, alongside the Queen's appearance at Buckingham Palace, celebrations have started across the country for the Jubilee. Over the next 4 days, there'll be tea dances in Belfast and street parties in Wales, parades in Blackpool and flotillas in Hull, with people finding their own way to celebrate the Queen's reign and make the most of the double bank holiday. Our North of England correspondent Claire Fallon reports.
Got one more table for the street?
Not just bring a bottle, but bring your own furniture too. With atypical weather for a bank holiday, this is just the start of the 4-day Platinum Jubilee celebration. And in Wigan, we found plenty of patriotism.
My mum couldn't find any of the colours what on the same clothes, so she drew it on the back of this T-shirt.
We're not going to get this again, are we? Not going to get 70 years of a monarch. So, no, it's lovely.
And we can expect plenty more street parties all over the place over the long weekend. But of course, other forms of Jubilee celebration are available. Like in Barrack-in-Elmet near Leeds, where they moved the traditional Maypole Festival back a month to mark the event.
I love the Queen, bless her. And it's just a great way of us all thanking her, isn't it?
And she's a lovely woman. And how long she'll last now, we don't know. She might last for quite a few years yet, I think.
And so, this weekend, expect plenty of parades and quite possibly enough bunting to get to the moon and back a few times. But why? Is it just any excuse for a party? Back in Wigan, it seems the party is only part of it.
I don't think we'll ever get another opportunity to celebrate the Queen like this. I don't think we'll ever have another monarch that's on the throne for 70 years. But also, I think as a community we've had a really difficult few years with COVID and everything else that's been going on. And I think to have an opportunity to spend some time together and celebrate shouldn't be passed off.
Admittedly, this is a street where they have that sense of community.
Vicky and Paul are over there.
Yeah.
And they've got a dog that's under the table.
As 11-year-old Erica explained to me, everyone knows everyone. While her dad demonstrated that royal fans come in all sorts of forms.
I used to have a Mohican, yeah. I used to have a curly Mohican. I'm a punk who likes the Queen. I'm also a punk who likes Margaret Thatcher. So that's a bit of a weird combination.
I love the royal family. I think it's amazing that the Queen, 70 years service to her country. I understand someone said to me the other day, no one in the world, in the history of the world, has ever led a country for that long. I think she's just an incredible monarch. She's always got the right thing to say.
Finally, we meet Simon and Natalia, the street's newest residents. Her dad is Russian, her mum is Ukrainian, and a few days ago, they moved in too, after escaping Russia.
It's been a long journey to get here, but they're here, so it's great.
Where are they?
So that's my dad. Like, he just loves everything British. Любишь королеву?
Да, конечно.
Yes, very much.
The stability that having an apolitical head of state affords the country is really underestimated until you sit down and think about it. Including by myself over the years, I've sort of dismissed it. But when you stand back and look at what happens in the absence of that, it makes you really grateful for what you do have, yeah.
For some then, this weekend, as people celebrate 70 years, it is about more than just parties.
Claire Fallon reporting there. With me now is Dr. Tessa Dunlop, who's a historian who writes about royalty and women like the Queen of the wartime generation. Well, Dr. Tessa, you were at the Trooping the Colour.
Yes.
Tell me what the kind of patriotic fervour was like.
Extraordinary. I've never seen Trooping the Colour before, and it was fascinating. Inside, there was a sort of reverence, a respect. We were told to stand up at certain times. Men were to take their hats off, and everyone, you could hear a pin drop almost. And it was exquisite. I was there with a 13-year-old and the carriages swept in, you know, Kate Middleton and her children. You could hardly see them, actually, from a distance. But nonetheless, oh, it's a Disney moment, you know, so capturing young hearts. And then the exquisite marching. The old Bottock next to me said, you see this? Britain does this better than any other country, this marching to music. I was like, oh, right. And I sat up and we all sort of fully believed. And then I came out.
And it was a real spectacle.
It was a real spectacle. It was a treat. And it was exquisitely executed up close. And then, of course, because there are animals, a couple of frisky horses really gets you on the edge of your seat. And then I came out and tried to get sort of down Whitehall, cross Trafalgar Square, absolutely mobbed. Fascinatingly, some people getting a bit tetchy, being held in by the police for the carriages to go past. But as soon as those carriages went past, we hardly saw them, but
Yeah.
it transformed the mood. And that's the first time I've really seen proper fans, royal fans.
Right, so what is this?
For it.
Why talk about the fans? I mean, what is the secret of the Queen's enduring popularity?
It's something, it's bigger even than the Queen. You know, we weren't seeing the Queen go past. It was literally, you know, Prince George and the back of Catherine's head. And they sort of chased. She said, oh, that was amazing. This woman sort of had a convulsion almost of joy, you know, and it's about this institution with a heartbeat in it that we are constantly talking about, examining, that ties us back to our past. Most people will have a story in their family they can take out of the drawer: the coronation, the silver jubilee, you know, the Queen's wedding matching their grandmother's wedding. So there's something about looking back, but also because there's also this young family that's coming forward, making the mistakes we make. I think there's a connection. And also, of course, there's this gigantic soap opera.
But, you know, she's faced personal challenges in her own family.
Massive.
You know, the death of Diana and the sexual assault allegations against Prince Andrew, for example, but also institutional challenges. I mean, the legacy of empire and the fact that, you know, a growing number of countries want to ditch her as the head of state. How has she responded to those challenges and changed the institution?
Slowly. Yeah.
Too slowly.
For some. But let's bear in mind, monarchy is really the arch-traditional institution. It's there to preserve ideas, myths about Britishness. And they've also got to flex and adjust. And as defender of the faith, commander-in-chief of the army, you're not going to lead the sort of march into progress and young love in the 60s. You're going to watch, aren't you? And then you're going to take a careful sidestep, a little side shuffle. What's interesting about the Queen is, I think, when she was at the zenith of her popularity was when she was very young, this unimpeachable, innocent girl, vulnerable, yet her father died young, seeing almost as a symbol of progression at a difficult time for empire. I think had she been a man, it would have been seen as a more heavy-handed imperial Britain, but it was this young, light, floaty woman. And you see the coverage likewise captured her as that. And now, of course, in extreme old age. She is the world's national treasure.
And she's attained that status, which is going to be hard for her son and heir to take on, isn't it?
It's not going to be hard. It's going to be impossible. You can't try to match that. The reason we got dewy-eyed, and I know this, you know, writing about that generation of women who served, because the Queen served, famously the only living head of state who served in World War II. She ties us back to the Blitz, to Churchill, to national service, to female service. She's a sort of goose. She's a pin-up of everything that nostalgic ideas of Britain hold dear. And at the same time, she's shown that even when you're really old, you can't be totally set in your ways. And I think she's done that partly because she doesn't have a voice, because she has the institution in the place of her voice. And
so you said it's impossible for Charles to follow her act. How does he try to live up? What are the biggest challenges he's facing?
I think he mustn't try to, but he can take some tips from his mother's reign. And we see William, I think, in many ways, trying to echo and follow in the footsteps of his grandmother.
More than Charles?
Yeah.
Because Charles is quite opinionated, and, you know, the
But
Queen has
less
been
so.
very careful not to be
Indeed, but I think Charles, if you noticed, he's become much more careful. He's had 70 years of waiting. Yeah, sometimes he's made big mistakes, small mistakes. He's been feeling his way, but, you know, once he gets the big job, it becomes much simpler. Look, there he is, you know, stepping in for his mum at the opening of Parliament. There he is today, taking the salute immediately. He's got the structure of that institution. He's no longer just part of the scaffolding. He's in the big gig almost. He'll be all right.
Dr. Tessa Dunlop, thank you very much for joining us.